You know, if you, or really anyone you love has been on that journey toward parenthood, it can be. I mean, it's just such a
Oh,
challenge.
absolutely. It's an emotional roller coaster for sure.
Right. It's all these cycles, these treatments, and sometimes it's just real disappointment, you know? Especially with something like IVF. It's a road where you really need every advantage you can get.
It is. And today, we're going to step away from that roller coaster for a bit and look right at the science. We're doing a deep dive into using acupuncture to improve female fertility.
And this isn't about, choosing an alternative path.
Not at all. It's about making the path you're already on work better. It's an integrative approach.
We're going to unpack the actual physiological mechanisms behind this, and we're focusing on the work pioneered by Mike Berkeley, who founded the Berkeley Center for Reproductive Wellness in New York.
And that's a key point because his was the very first complementary medicine center in the entire U.S. that was focused only on reproductive wellness.
So our mission today is to cut through all the mystery and just look at the hard science, the measurable ways this can work alongside modern medicine.
Exactly.
Okay, so to set the foundation here, let's just quickly lay out what the research says a body needs to be ready for conception. It kind of boils down to three big things.
Three core pillars, really. First up is circulation. You just have to have a rich, steady supply of blood going to exactly the right places.
To the ovaries, right, for the eggs.
For the ovaries, for the follicles developing those eggs, and for the uterus to build up that nice thick lining. It's like making sure a factory has a constant delivery of the best raw materials.
Okay, that makes sense. What's number two?
Number two is the uterine environment itself. It needs to be, well, welcoming. That means good circulation, yes, but it also means it needs to be immunologically calm.
Calm. What do you mean by that?
I mean, if your body is in this state of overdrive, like with chronic inflammation, the uterine lining can actually become hostile to an embryo.
So it's not a safe place to land.
Exactly. An embryo needs a secure, non-threatening place to implant.
And the third piece?
The third piece is the one we probably overlook the most. Balancing the nervous system. Your body has to be convinced it's safe enough to even think about reproduction.
Ah, the whole fight or flight thing.
That's it. If you're stuck in that survival mode, your body just shuts down non-essential functions. And reproduction is, well, it's the first to go. The goal is to get into that rest, repair, and reproduce state.
Okay, so that's our framework. Circulation, a calm immune environment, and nervous system balance. Let's start with the first one, circulation. I mean, how on earth does a tiny little needle affect blood flow?
It's a really fascinating mechanism, actually. It works at the micro level, and the main player is this tiny gas molecule called nitric oxide, or NO.
Nitric oxide, right, okay.
Right.
And that's not laughing gas.
No, definitely not laughing gas.
Yeah.
Nitric oxide it's a critical signaling molecule. When you stimulate an acupuncture point, your body releases more of it into the local tissue.
And what does it signal?
It signals the smooth muscle around your blood vessels to just relax,
Yeah.
to widen. It's a process called vasodilation.
So we're basically widening the pipe.
You're widening the pipes. And when you do that in the pelvis, you dramatically improve what's called microcirculation.
The blood flow in the tiniest vessels.
Exactly. The ones feeding the ovarian follicles, the ones feeding the endometrial lining. So you're getting more oxygen, more nutrients, more hormones delivered right where they need to be.
I really liked the analogy from our source material for this. It's like you're upgrading these narrow, slow little side streets in your pelvis into smoother, wider avenues for blood flow.
It's a perfect analogy. And this isn't just a theory. We can actually measure this. Reproductive endocrinologists use Doppler ultrasound all the time to check blood flow resistance in the uterine arteries.
So if the vessels are tight, the resistance is high.
Precisely. And high resistance makes it harder for the uterus to get what it needs, harder for implantation. And studies have shown pretty consistently that acupuncture helps lower that resistance.
So that's what they mean by improved hemodynamics.
That's exactly what it means. Better blood flow mechanics. And this is a core goal at a place like the Berkeley Center. They're looking for those measurable changes.
So the takeaway for you listening is that whether you're trying naturally or doing IUI or IVF, this is all about creating a more stable, nourishing environment for conception to happen.
A better fed system is a better functioning system.
Okay, so that's circulation, but you said that's only half the battle. Let's move on to that second area, inflammation.
Yes, inflammation. This is so important because so many of these really tough reproductive issues, endometriosis, some types of PCOS, recurrent implantation failure.
Even unexplained infertility sometimes.
Right. They all have this inflammatory component. It's like your body's just smoldering with this low-grade internal fire.
And when that fire flares up?
Well, you get these elevated levels of chemical messengers. They're called inflammatory cytokines. And they're like little saboteurs in your system.
How so? What do they sabotage?
They can disrupt the hormone signaling that's needed for an egg to mature properly. And, maybe most importantly, they can make the uterine lining unable to accept an embryo.
So the embryo gets there, but the environment actively fights it off.
It's just not receptive. But this is where acupuncture can be a really powerful modulator. It's not just a blunt instrument.
What do you mean?
Well, the research shows it seems to work on both sides of the coin. It helps reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines, that's the gas pedal, for inflammation, and it increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines, which are the brakes.
Okay, but hang on a second. Inflammation is a good thing sometimes, right? Like if you get a cut or an infection, you don't want to turn that off completely.
That is a great point. And we're not talking about turning off that healthy acute response. We're talking about rebalancing the chronic systemic inflammation that's gone haywire and is affecting reproductive tissue.
So you're not shutting down the fire department, you're just calling it off when there's no fire.
Perfect way to put it. You're shifting the environment from on fire and hostile to calm and welcoming. You're helping the immune system support the process, not sabotage it.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now for the third factor. Stress. This is where it gets really interesting because we're always told to just relax, but this explains why.
It's absolutely physiological. It all comes down to something called the HPA axis, the hypothalamic-pituitary-adrenal axis.
The body's stress command center.
Exactly. And when stress is chronic, and it doesn't matter if it's from work or from the fertility treatments themselves, that axis is just pumping out cortisol.
The famous stress hormone. We all know cortisol is bad, but what's the specific chain reaction that messes with fertility?
It's all about hierarchy in the body. When cortisol is always high, it basically bullies the brain's reproductive control center. The hypothalamus gets overwhelmed and can't properly release GnRH, which is the master conductor for all your reproductive hormones.
So FSH, LH, all of that gets thrown off.
The whole symphony falls apart. Your brain is basically screaming, there's an emergency. Making a baby is not the priority right now.
So the message is literally, we're in danger. Shut down non-essential services.
That's precisely it. And there's a double whammy here because it circles back to our first point, circulation.
How so?
That constant fight or flight state, that sympathetic tone, physically constricts blood vessels. So it actually reduces blood flow to the uterus, compounding the circulation problem.
Wow. So it's a hormonal problem and a physical blood flow problem at the same time.
It is, which makes the solution so much clearer. You're not just trying to make someone feel relaxed. You're trying to physically flip a switch in their nervous system.
To get out of fight or flight and into
the parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode. Yeah. Acupuncture is very effective at activating this system, which in turn helps lower those baseline cortisol levels. You're changing the body's priority from survival back to reproduction.
Circulation, inflammation, stress. That's a really powerful combination of effects. It moves this whole conversation out of the realm of, woo, and into measurable biology.
It really does.
So let's pivot to how this is applied in practice. Let's talk about the pioneering work of Mike Berkeley and his team.
Their contribution was really establishing this model of East meets West collaboration. They didn't just add acupuncture to a menu of services. They built a whole clinic around the idea that you can enhance modern medicine by supporting the body's underlying environment.
So it's truly integrative. You're using these methods not to replace IVF, but to make the IVF cycle more likely to succeed.
Exactly. Or to help medication for PCOS work better, or to manage the inflammation from endometriosis so the body's more receptive. It's about support and enhancement.
And what I found interesting is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's very personalized.
Very. The treatment plans are driven by two streams of data. First, all the Western diagnostics. Your lab work, your imaging, your IVF history, especially why a previous cycle might have failed.
Okay, so that's one stream. What's the other one? The traditional Chinese medicine diagnosis.
That's the other stream. In TCM, they might diagnose something like blood stasis or kidney deficiency. Now, those terms sound arcane, but they're really just traditional frameworks for describing things we'd call poor circulation or hormonal imbalance.
So how do those two different ways of looking at the body work together?
They inform each other. The TCM diagnosis tells the practitioner where to place the needles and what herbs might help restore balance. Then, The Western diagnostics are used to track if it's working.
Ah, okay. So if the Western diagnosis is high uterine resistance, the TCM diagnosis might be blood stasis. You do the treatment for that.
And then you use the Doppler ultrasound again later to see if the resistance is actually dropped. You're using modern metrics to validate an ancient therapy.
That makes perfect sense. It all comes back to physiology.
Right. It's a tool to improve nitric oxide, to enhance hemodynamics, to modulate inflammation, and to calm that stress response. The goal is just to help more women have healthy pregnancies by getting the body's foundation right.
So if we look at all the research we reviewed, the pattern is pretty clear.
It's very consistent. Acupuncture consistently seems to improve the factors that we know matter for fertility: the circulation, the inflammation, the stress hormones.
And here's a final, really practical point from the data that I think is crucial for you to hear. This works best as a sustained course of care.
Yes, this isn't about just one magic session on the day of your embryo transfer.
Right. It's about systematically improving that internal environment over weeks or even months, leading up to a transfer or a conception attempt.
And when it's approached that way, the data shows modest but definitely measurable improvements in pregnancy outcomes for a lot of women.
So to sum it up, the goal here, whether at the Berkeley Center or with any other skilled practitioner, is not to replace your reproductive endocrinologist. Not at all.
No, it's to be an ally.
It's to give your body every single physiological advantage you can. Better blood flow, calmer inflammation, a more receptive uterine environment. It's giving your medical treatments the best possible runway for success.
Beautifully said. And maybe a final thought for you to take away from this. If we know for a fact that lowering stress is physiologically meaningful to conception, I mean, it's measurable,
Right.
then what other things in your life, things you might just dismiss as relaxing, could be having a powerful, measurable impact? Maybe it's meditation, or a walk in nature, or even just 5 minutes of deep breathing.
It makes you rethink what self-care actually is. It's not just a nice idea.
It's not abstract at all. The mind-body connection is a real powerful driver of your internal chemistry and your health.
Powerful indeed. That's our deep dive into the physiology of fertility support.